Bottom tier Tomozaki's cast's main common denominator is the concept of sincerity and how they come to terms with it. For instance, Tomozaki is too sincere and can't bring himself to deceive others in any circumstance. Mizusawa shrouds himself in a mysterious and detached aura, all the while fooling around with multiple girls and not acknowledging his true desires. And Hinami being the direct opposition to this theme by nature. Somebody who refuses to be genuine and hides behind a multitude of masks and views life through a detached and game-like perspective. Meanwhile, Minami, or more commonly known as Mimi, is able to capture the concept perfectly and highlight what Hinami is truly lacking. Similarly to Tomozaki, she's genuine and wears her heart on her sleeve. She presents herself as an energetic person who intends to live her days with a positive smile on her face, even during the worst of times. Not to mention, she's charismatic, someone who's able to befriend the likes of Tama and break her out of her shell, and has the ability to naturally fit in with groups if need be. Mimi is direct and sincere. She's easy to talk to and easy to become friends with. She's not playing an act like the other characters such as Hinami. She is genuinely just a person who wants to be the best at everything she can be, looking out for the people she cares for and wants to have the time of her life. She enjoys teasing people, especially Tomozaki and Tama, which to me is likely due to wanting to get them to open up and interact more oftenly, considering Tama initially closes herself off from the rest of the class. A lot of this is shown in her relationship to Tomozaki. They're both similar in a bunch of ways, but there are key differences that set them apart. In this story, almost everybody is struggling to be honest with themselves. Just look at Hinami and Mizusawa. Hell, even Shuji's tsundere attitude is literally due to him not wanting to show his emotions to the public, despite the fact that he's generally a really nice guy. When inspecting Tomozaki's character, one can infer that his sincerity is much more direct. He will not stand aside for things that he believes to be the right thing. He lashes out at Erika for belittling Shuji's efforts to beat Tomozaki because Tomozaki, Shuji was genuinely working hard in order to beat him, and he can't accept that to be laughed at. It's the biggest reason why, as to halfway into season 1, he and Hinami clash when it comes to getting to date Fuka. Hinami views it as merely gaining experience points to get better at the game of life, and is only really viewing Fuka in this scenario as a means to achieve that end. But Tomozaki can't abide by this, and upon realizing why Fuka found him hard to talk to at times, he doesn't try dating her in this fashion anymore. The facade he created in order to get closer felt superficial, and that isn't Tomozaki. He's not somebody who wants to go through life only for the sake of winning in the same manner as Hinami. He'd much rather think about whether or not he truly likes Fuka and wants to pursue a relationship with her. Now, in comparison, Mimi's sincerity may not be as vocal as Tomozaki, but she wears it on her sleeve so openly that everybody's able to tell at first glance just what kind of person she is. Now, this isn't to say that she has nothing to hide. She does hide things and keep them to herself if they would burden the people she cares for. She doesn't want Tama to know that she's been trying to befriend her with Hinami's help, and she didn't really want others to find out about her middle school basketball tournament. She's one to take things on all by herself, which could lead to overwork, which is something we'll get to later on in the video, and above all else, she can't bring herself to lie. Even the mere idea of having negative thoughts of Hinami causes her to open up to Tomozaki and Tama about them because she can't accept the fact that she had those thoughts in the first place. I think one of the most intriguing things about Mimi's character is her inability to be confident in the means she can support others. This is a prevalent aspect of her character which gets highlighted various times in the story. A great example of this would be her relationship to Tama, someone who closed herself off from the rest of the class. Mimi wants to make her fit with the rest, but doesn't know the means of how to go about it. Not to mention, the message she goes about trying to befriend Tama after hearing Hinami's advice is strange. She's always all over her, whether it be physically poking her or exaggerating her affection towards Tama. She would also go on about how cute Tama is, but in a way, I think this fits Mimi perfectly. She's a person who thinks with her heart first and foremost, and she actively shows her true intentions to the public, and is generally a very affectionate person. So by proxy, showing her affection in this manner works and serves as a way to break Tama's shell. This manages to add realism in Minami. She is just a high schooler. There are going to be a ton of things that she won't be aware of, nor capable of doing. So her uncertainty manages to act as a subversion, considering her kind of character is usually the kind to lead and everyone relies on, or happy-go-lucky, full positive. Yet Minami is the one that relies on others instead. She even relies on Tomozaki for the student council election. This is not to label her as somebody who is incapable of being independent though. But I do think that this aspect of her does set up her duality to Hinami, which is something we'll get later on in this video. On the topic of her support, when you really look at the big picture, Mimi struggles to support the people she cares for. She helps Tama open up to her and become close friends quickly, but she's unable to assist her during the Erika arc. Sure, she may have been there for her when the bullying started to get out of hand, but she wasn't able to get to the core issue in the same fashion Tomozaki managed to do with Tama. And that's another one of the major differences the two have, despite how similar they are. Though despite what Mimi may think of herself, her just being there for Tama is great. Her heart's in the right place and she's always trying her best to help her in any way she can. And there's nothing wrong with getting advice from others to help the people you care for. And I think this aspect of her character is something that may go unnoticed by many. Beneath Minami's upbeat energy, there's a tragic side to her, the curse of the runner-up. As the runner-up, you may be praised for your efforts and how far you managed to reach, but never will be as much as the winner. They're usually never remembered as falling as the winner, slowly falling into obscurity. There are many things in this world where if you were to ask somebody who's the best at it, the answer would be fast and simple. Yet asking for the second best would take longer to find an answer for, if any at all. Mimi has never managed to become number one. Whether it be for a sports competition, exams, or tournament, she's always been stuck at number 2 behind Hinami, who is the one who ends up beating her every step of the way. It's why she attempted becoming the student council president. She wants to fully be able to surpass Hinami and shine brightly. She may have managed to get to second place during the basketball tournament that she participated in middle school, but it isn't enough to her despite the fact that her teammates are satisfied with how far they've gone. They're glad that they managed to at least get this far in the prefectural tournament, but to Minami, it can't end this way. To her, it's because of the prefectural tournament that she believes this isn't something to be proud of. What I think makes this segment fascinating is that in a way, it's telling Minami that maybe first place isn't the most important thing in the world. Her teammates acknowledge and are aware of how hard she's worked up to this point, and that getting this far is impressive. And thanks to Minami, they've managed to get to second place. I think in this instance, Minami wanted to believe this to be the case, that perhaps this is enough, and that there's no need to overwork yourself to the fullest. We see more of this in the present, where she goes on to overwork herself in a single-minded goal to beat Hinami. She's training late at night, coming to practice very early, and doing way too much that eventually affects her sleep. But it's difficult. It's hard to constantly keep this up and eventually tear yourself apart, chasing after a goal that may never be achievable, going after the one person who you believe to be better than you at everything. Mimi views herself in a very bad light. She's quick to beat herself up and be very harsh and negative, and she thinks of herself as a nobody, somebody who can't shine brightly and is just an ordinary person just like everybody else. She is the Minami that we know today because of this, due to her changing her attitude to fit the mood. But number one isn't everything, and Mimi already manages to shine brightly in different places. She's the person who managed to break Tama out of her shell and become close friends, and is able to fit in any friend group with her charismatic personality, and even being able to get this far against Hinami is nothing to scoff at. It can't be meaningless, and Hinami herself acknowledges this. She believes that as long as Minami is putting in the effort despite it being a single-minded method, there's nothing wrong with that. It's interesting. Hinami is obsessed with the number 1 spot and is shocked at the idea of Tomozaki rejecting the concept despite being the best at TAC fam, yet she refuses to dismiss Minami's efforts as meaningless even if she didn't reach first place. Meanwhile, Minami questions whether or not number 1 is all that matters to Hinami, when that is essentially what Minami has been going for all this time. In the end, there is nothing wrong with being the runner-up. Minami has always been acknowledged by the people around her, and especially Hinami, and they've always been aware of how hard she works and how far she's come. Those thoughts may always be a part of Mimi, and she may have to live with it, but that doesn't mean that she should give up and accept her fate as the runner-up. Tomozaki has already helped her have opportunities to have another chance at it, such as the student council election, and just maybe, she will be able to finally become number 1. The duality between these two is such an interesting thing to explore. Both these characters are written in 2 completely different ways, and the way they are at their core couldn't be any different, yet they share so many similarities. Now, if you take a look at Mimi and the way she's written, she's very open as a person, and there's no mystery around her. Her goals, personality, everything about her is very easy to deduce. She is never deceiving anybody, and one can easily tell if she's trying to hide something from the characters. She's emotional, genuine, and opens up to the people she's close to, and tries her best to help people she cares about, and is arguably honest to a fault. But when you take a look at Hinami's character, she couldn't be any different. She is shrouded in mystery. Even right now, most of the deductions you make of her have yet to be confirmed, and her motivations are currently beyond anybody. Contrary to Mimi's direct and forward characterization, Hinami's is indirect and subtle. She is wearing mask under mask, deceiving both the audience and its characters. Even moments that you perceive as genuine may end up really being just another facade. She's detached, viewing the world as if it's some video game that she's supposed to complete, and everyone around her is a character rather than a person. And in some cases, she tends to value logic over morality, such as the times where she suggested Tomozaki to date multiple girls at once, or viewing Fuka as nothing but a goal for Tomozaki to date and get experience in life rather than an actual person. Logically, it makes sense, as it would indeed grant Tomozaki the experience he needs when it comes to relationships, but emotionally and morally it is flawed. This isn't to paint Hinami as some evil mastermind villain of the show though. There are some characters that Hinami does seem to genuinely care for, such as Mimi, Tama, and especially Tomozaki. She's sympathetic for both Mimi and Tama in their respective arcs, willing to break her own principles all for the sake of assisting them throughout both their struggles, especially Tama in her own arc. Both of them admire each other and want to be like the other. In Hinami's case, I think it's mainly because of how open and honest Minami is capable of being. She's able to put her feelings out there and really connect with people quite easily, something that Hinami has never been shown to do. She may have a ton of connections with their characters, but never is it really that deep. Even with Tomozaki, as close as they may seem, she is still very distant to him and hides almost everything about herself. In Minami's case, she looks up to Hinami. She sees things in Hinami that she herself lacks. One who is always at the top, admired, acknowledged, and overcomes every obstacle in her way. To her, Hinami is the ceiling that she's unable to surpass, the person that's beaten her in almost everything they compete in. Amidst all that though, Hinami is also the one that managed to save Minami. She was the one who truly recognized her efforts and knew how much work she put in to get that far into a prefectural tournament in middle school. Somebody out there knew her efforts, and that is something that truly resonated within Minami. The student council election manages to present their differences perfectly and establish just what it is that Minami lacks when compared to Hinami. Hinami is a master at tone and atmosphere. She understands what people are thinking and what they really want at any point, and uses it to her advantage to control the conversation, and it's shown in her campaign speech. She says things that come off as genuine, making sure that it doesn't sound hollow. She's aware that the students don't really care who wins the election, because things probably wouldn't change, and that most of them wouldn't be vocal about it and keep it to themselves. So with that in mind, she says things to assure the students that she is more than your average student council president and is willing to go as far as promising to install air conditioners for every class. Another important thing that she does is that she throws jokes here and there to also add a lighthearted tone to her speech. It even gets to the point where she knows exactly how the teachers feel and manages to use that against them, so she has control over the mood even more than the teachers themselves. Though Minami does fight against Hinami with her greatest weapon, her sincerity. While Minami may lack the ability to control and manipulate the mood in the same fashion as Hinami, she has the upper hand when it comes to her sincerity and authenticity when it comes to being herself and down to earth. Her speech may come off as cliche to many, but the presentation of it is what makes it a good campaign. She utilizes it best with the skit that Tomozaki helps with the Navigator. She's fun to the masses and is simply just being herself here, and she does manage to garner the attention of the students and is able to establish that she's capable of ad-libbing due to this. The relationship is what causes Minami so much suffering. After a certain point, Minami just gives up on competing against Hinami and just resigns from the track club. Up to this point, Minami was on a single-minded mission to get to the top, and finally shine the way she always wanted to. And with the way things were going, it didn't seem like she planned to quit anytime soon. She did mention that she did feel like quitting so badly, but that was only a reason to keep going. But given the circumstances, she couldn't keep up anymore. And it isn't solely because it was exhausting. It was because of the thoughts regarding Hinami that came up during her journey. It further explores the idea that the two are complete opposites because, in the same sense of Hinami willing to do whatever it takes to get further in life or garner experience, Minami is the direct opposite to this. She can't even bear the mere idea of wishing Hinami wasn't there anymore, and that things would be better off this way. Thoughts such as, what's the purpose of Hinami going to these lengths? If she's my friend, wouldn't she quit for my sake? Because perhaps, then the suffering would be finally over. It works to add another aspect to Minami and its realism. She's not some blindly positive force of energy, she's just her own person. Somebody that also has negative thoughts and situations, and in a way, it highlights the bigger picture of narrative's theme, the concept of sincerity. Here, Minami's sincerity is shown in full view. She can't hide nor live by these negative thoughts of wishing something happen upon another, and gets it off her chest and agonizes over it. If things kept going, who knows how much further these thoughts would have gone. Thank you everybody for watching this video. I did recently watch the series in anticipation for season 2, and upon rewatching, it made me appreciate Minami and Hinami a lot more than I did, and it compelled me to make a video on Minami and maybe later down the line, Hinami. So look forward to that and other content to come. This will be Joe signing out.